Hey, Star Wars fans, it's David. Just wanted to drop a quick message before the actual show starts. Thank you guys so much for all of the support that you've given us over the past 2.5 years. In fact, many of you have been Patreon supporters. We have actually turned off our Patreon, and we're no longer accepting any new supporters on that because we want this show to be about more than just taking. We want to be about giving. And so we are partnering with an organization that means a great deal to us. It's called One Child. They serve children living in extreme poverty all around the world. These children are living on less than $2 a day. And we have been partnering with them for some time, and actually giving our own money to help support these children. And we want you guys to check it out. So go to a specific page on our website, tatooinesons.com/hope. Watch our video, learn a little bit more about it, check it out, and see if you want to be a part of it. Thanks so much. May the Force be with you.
It's true. All of it.
Like he had groomed Anakin for this role for so long that he had this programmed into them.
The Force is strong in my family.
Master Windu throws the code out the window before he gets thrown out the window.
Do or do not. There is no try.
First episode of Siege of Mandalore, and he wins 2 battles in the same day, and of course he's cocky.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Anakin doesn't trust the Jedi Council at this point.
He almost has no loyalty to them in any way.
No, and part of that has to do with what happens with Ahsoka.
We're not done yet.
This and the crew going to just kind of flip the tables on the Inquisitors and start hunting them. Welcome, Star Wars fans. This is Tatooine Sons, your weekly look at all things Star Wars, from the unique perspective of a father sharing his love for the amazing space fantasy saga with his 2 sons. I am BB Nate, and I'm joined first by my brother, Samuel Lahut.
Shoot to Star Wars fans, thanks for tuning in, and if you're not a Star Wars fan, then you better get ready for even more Star Wars games to start coming out.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that caught me off guard. I thought we were going to have a completely different Achuda.
Well, I'm full of surprises.
You are full of
You'll
surprises.
find, what's the quote?
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
There it is, yeah.
I like this
And of course,
guy.
you can't have Star Wars without bizarre father figures, so on that note, here's my dad's bow-tied Jedi. Got it.
Episode 10. The
We
last
made it.
episode of the series with that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to talk about The Chosen.
Got a bad feeling about this.
do you
Anakin
mean?
Skywalker. So we should probably tell the story of Sam and his amazing ability to try to
I got this.
ban us from being able to go to Batuu.
It's a trap.
Give us all heart attacks.
All right. You have no idea. So we were eating at PDQ the other day, which is like this amazing chicken tenders restaurant
It's
that
great.
we just discovered here in Florida. And I'm looking
Okay,
at
real quick. Since it's like our extra stuff. PDQ, Chick-fil-A, or Cane's.
Oh, please.
Ooh, that's hard, because they're all really good.
Okay.
Completely unpaid sponsorship here, right?
Oh, yeah.
I feel somewhat contractually obligated to say Chick-fil-A, but
Since that was
can't.
your first job and
Right.
my first job?
Right. The sandwiches are good, but I prefer PDQ out of all 3.
Really? BB Nate?
I can't really say PDQ because I've gotten sick every time I've eaten there.
But is it worth it, though?
I love the food. Don't get me wrong. It tastes amazing. But I'd have to go... I don't know. That's hard between Chick-fil-A and Cane's.
Well, we don't have a Cane's down here, so I guess it's Chick-fil-A for you right
I guess.
now. Yeah.
Even though the Chick-fil-A, the closest
There's a
one...
Cane's somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, there
I
is.
think there is.
Yeah. The closest Chick-fil-A is 10 minutes away, so it's not
No, it's
terrible.
15, 20 minutes away.
15.
No. Well,
right.
no, there's one that's only like 5 minutes away.
It's
Oh,
a
at the
trap.
airport.
Yeah, that's the one that series.
So
tried
we
to take us
first
to.
move here, and the very first night, May 1st, we move into here. We start setting up the podcast studio because we were getting ready to do the live show on the 4th of
Right.
May, and we're working our tails off to get into the house and all this, and it was exhausted, right? And we're like, I want Chick-fil-A for dinner. So I Google or I map on Siri. All right. By the way, Siri Maps
suck.
is Satan. Okay.
please.
It's taken me to some of the worst places on Earth. We've got stories that we could tell about Siri's map, but I'm an idiot because I'm an Apple guy, so I take Siri, right? So I choose to go to Chick-fil-A against Siri. Where do we end up, Samuel the Hutt?
The airport.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
The Orlando International Airport, because there's a Chick-fil-A in there. So it's like, well, that's the closest Chick-fil-A, so we'll just take it there. It's closed.
You can't even get into the airport to go do
It's
it.
past security. You'd have to buy a ticket to go get Chick-fil-A.
So outside of that, it's 15 to 20 minutes away.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
But they're building one only like 5-10 minutes away from here.
That's true.
Right by Walmart. So,
And it's supposed to be open like this fall or something.
yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we're at PDQ.
Way back there. Okay, so we're eating lunch at PDQ, and I'm looking around at our Walt Disney World app, seeing that we've got our reservations, because you have to have reservations to get into Disney World right now. So we have 3 reservations.
But you got to explain the insanity of getting those reservations in the first place.
So we're on a lot of pass holder groups or whatever, and they opened up reservations for people who have like resort stays and stuff before like annual pass holders, which makes sense because they're staying on the property and stuff. And we have been hearing all these horror stories of people being on hold for the passes for like 6 hours straight. And still not getting passes, and it just being a total disaster. So we're a little nervous.
Getting all the way up to, on the computer, getting all the way up to the spot where you select your tickets, and then getting kicked out and having to go back in all over again. It was a disaster for resort stay home.
Right. So we were a little nervous for our pass, our annual pass holder slot. So Mom wakes up at like 5:45 or something, and gets on the call, and
she gets online. She was online.
She gets online,
yeah,
and she gets you can only have 3 days, and she got all 3.
Hello there.
Like perfect, just how we want
exactly
them.
what we were going for. Because they're opening Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom on the 11th of July, and they're opening Hollywood Studios, which is where Galaxy's Edge is, and Epcot. Who cares? I mean, Epcot. No, I'm excited to go back to Epcot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Apparently, nobody's going for Epcot reservations right now. They still are wide open for everything, from what I'm seeing. But anyway, you can only have 3, so Epcot wasn't on our list. So we wanted to go Magic Kingdom on the 11th.
Yep.
We wanted to go Animal Kingdom on the 12th, and we wanted to go Hollywood Studios so we can go to Galaxy's Edge for the very first time. Yay! On the 15th.
We got all 3 like in no problem, and then they sold out and within like 20 minutes.
Well, Magic Kingdom did.
Right. So we got really lucky.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
So we were very fortunate for that. So we're eating
So the next
lunch.
day, 24 hours later.
We're eating lunch, and I'm on the app admiring the fact that we have reservations and stuff. I'm all excited. And I'm looking and I'm like, well, it says make dining reservations and stuff on this whole page of the app. And I'm like, well, let's see if I can get like a reservation to Oga's Cantina or something, which now looking back, I realize wouldn't work. But because bars and stuff are closed.
Well, Oga's, I think, is open for
okay.
for food,
anyway,
but.
So I'm looking, I'm like, I click make a reservation, and it's got our 3 reservations for the parks. And I'm like, well, I want to do Oga's Cantina. So I click Hollywood Studios. And it says, okay, here's your reservation. And I'm like, okay, well, we don't need this right now. I know how to do it. So I'll talk to Mom and Dad later.
I got a bad feeling about this.
And there's this cancel button. So I click cancel, and it says for how many of your guests, because we're all on the same family. So it reserves for everyone. So I'm like, well, all 4 of us then. So I click cancel.
It's a trap!
And then I go and I look at our passes, and I notice there's only 2 passes for Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. It had actually deleted Hollywood Studios. So you should have seen me. I was staring there at my phone looking at it, and the realization hit me, and I could feel the blood drain from my face, and I was just like, oh my God.
All of the ones to have deleted,
right.
too,
I would have been
Edge.
less worried if it were Animal Kingdom or something, but it was Hollywood Studios. And I tell you guys, and you guys are livid. I don't blame you. I feel
Sam,
like an idiot.
Nathan was Nathan. BB Nate is always like, yeah, it's cool. It'll work out. Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
You guys are freaking
Mom and
out.
I were like, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? I'm sitting there trying to find the phone number to call him. Mom's like, there's no way that they're going to have to be at the passes. And she's going into the app seeing if they're somehow we can find a pass to Hollywood Studios at some point in the next 6 months. She's going in there for it. So what happened?
Eventually, though, she was able to get back in, and she got our exact reservations back same day. Like nothing had ever happened. Fortunately, nobody was on. They were trying to reserve at that time when ours canceled because it just opened up 4 more slots and we just grabbed those slots back.
How in the world do we get our passes back? What do you think is the only explanation for how that happened?
Exactly what he was explaining. We lost them, they got them back, and we went back in and just grabbed them again.
We just
before anybody else reserved
right.
it.
Yeah.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
That's crazy.
So later on,
the Force is strong with us going to Galaxy's Edge on the 15th.
I've just said, you guys are going to appreciate this more now because you realize how fragile it is.
Yeah. So maybe we're going to have a blast that day. I have a feeling we're going to be doing lots of live stuff. I don't want to be focused on our social media stuff.
But we got to do some stuff.
We're going to do some stuff.
Oh, definitely.
Day. But I can't wait to just go to Batuu to see the Millennium Falcon. You're
probably going to cry when you see it.
I might. I'm like emotional.
I like this guy.
Sitting here thinking about it's really going to happen in like 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks.
The things like this though never hit me until like after I've done it all.
And we get to see the X-wing that they actually used in that episode of The Mandalorian, the Dave Filoni, Rick
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Deborah Chow sat in that episode of The Mandalorian. That was the one they used for it. Yeah. And I cannot wait to to get my blue milk.
If we can.
No, they're going to be doing that kind of stuff. That's not alcoholic, so they're going to be serving.
Are there places to get it outside of the cantina?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna I'm gonna get my blue milk, and I'm just gonna sit there somewhere in Batuu in Black
probably
Spire
under the
Outpost,
wishing tree.
Under the wishing tree, and just take it all in for a couple of minutes. Oh, that's gonna be so much.
Do not.
You excited?
Yeah.
There is no try.
All right, BB. Thanks for sharing. Okay, you guys ready for some hot takes?
Let's do it.
All right, EA expects to be making Star Wars games for the foreseeable future. Deborah Chow talks Kenobi series.
Hello there.
And some hidden nuggets in a recent book may have revealed a great deal about the nature of the first Jedi.
I got a bad feeling about this.
That's all next on Hot Takes.
Are you brainless?
I never asked that question till after I've done it.
All right, well, EA is doubling down on creating Star Wars games. This is from IGN. The company held a fireside chat in the middle of June.
What?
Webinar with investors this week via GameSpot. During the conference, EA CEO Andrew Wilson, not the Andrew Wilson that you knew from church and when you were a teenager, alluded to the financial success of the modern Star Wars Battlefront series, Respawn's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and the mobile game Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I didn't know EA did that one. As part of his reasoning for further commitment to the license. We're going to double down on that partnership, Wilson explains. Disney continues to be very, very committed to the IP and to the canon. Wilson went on to say, we've got new generations of fans coming to this IP all the time. So our expectation is we think there continues to be a really strong opportunity in and around that relationship and that IP going forward. BB Nate.
Okay.
We know that EA, what?
What does IP mean?
Intellectual property.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Kind of like this show on Facebook is intellectual property.
IP?
Yeah, we're an IP. Yeah. Anyway, BB Nate, we know that EA has already committed to a series of games around Jedi Fallen Order's story. Where could you see that story going?
I'd like a path of Cal Kestis and the crew going to just kind of flip the tables on the Inquisitors and start hunting them.
It's a trap.
Ooh, that's a little dark, don't you think?
Yeah, go a little bit deeper.
I'm going to go to the spoiler territory.
Okay.
Sorry, Dad.
Let's do it then.
But when you go to the vault, at the very end, he notices that let the Force decide these kids' destinies and not ours. So he just destroys the holocron.
Mm-hmm.
And
is it the Jedi holocron?
The one that you've been playing 16 hours for.
I want to go home and
So
breathe my
you
life.
just destroy it. I was a little bit weirded out by that, but I just think that they think that the Inquisitors are a threat to any remaining Jedi in the galaxy, and so they probably can just go hunt them.
That's really dark and doesn't seem very Jedi to me, because the whole Jedi thing is you use the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
That's literally the definition of attack, is going out to harm somebody. So I don't know if they do that. I get where you're coming from, Nathan, with it.
Where else would they go?
Well, I think that they're going to go and try and find Force sensitives around the galaxy.
Without the holocron? They said that they wanted the Force to guide them.
Well, maybe they'll just rely
decision.
completely on the Force, not using any outside technology. They'll go look for Force sensitives and maybe save them or help them or recruit them and stuff. I don't think they're going to go and hunt the Inquisitors, because that seems pretty dark for me.
So the ending of the story, again, I haven't finished this. But the ending of the story is Cal Kestis destroys the holocron that they were going to use to find the Force sensitive children. Is that it? Because he's afraid the Inquisitors are going to get a hold of it,
Right.
and then find it themselves. And now BB Nate wants to flip the script and go after the Inquisitors using the Force. And and you're thinking something different? What do you think?
They're going to go and just try and kind of be like, not necessarily vigilantes, but just like these group of people that go around trying to help any Force sensitive they come across. Not necessarily seeking people out. Maybe they are to recruit, but just relying on the Force.
So we don't have an ending of the story for Cal Kestis at all. We don't know what happens to him after Jedi Fallen Order, leading into Rebels and beyond.
Nope.
No.
And do we remember the time frame as far as how far this is? 10 years before Rebels?
I don't know.
He's aged like 7 or 8 years since the end of the Order 66.
Oh yeah,
it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting to see. So Samuel the Hutt, gaming in general tends to fall into like different categories. There's different types of games. I'm not familiar with really any of this stuff, but you guys are, different styles and everything. What style of game would be a really cool addition to the Star Wars universe?
Honestly, they've hit all the really good ones that I think could work. They have a good first-person shooter, Battlefront series. They have a good third-person story-driven story, Fallen Order. They're coming out with a good flight game. Now they could maybe do a driving game, but I think there's really not a lot of driving,
racing,
right? But there's really not a whole lot of that in the Star Wars universe that you could build a story off of. So I think the Squadrons is going to kind of cover that area. The only thing you're left with are like 2D fighting games, kind of like Mortal Kombat, or platform games like Mario, and neither of those really fit into the Star Wars universe. So honestly, I think they've hit the good ones. You could try and go down like a choose your own adventure sort of thing, like a Telltale series game, but then you run into canon issues. So I think honestly Star Wars has hit the good stuff. They just need to build on that even further.
What do you think, BB Nate?
I mean, I don't think, like Sam said, they've hit all the good genres, and so I don't think that they're going to try to hit any more, because there's not many they can hit from here. But what I really would like to see is another third-person story-driven game, of course.
Is that like Jedi Fallen Order? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. In the style of, like, maybe set in the underworld, a little bit like 1313, but set as maybe somebody a bounty hunter that is trying to liberate a planet.
Yeah.
And that's your goal. Kind of a little bit like the Arkham games, taking down areas, going and trying to fight these specific bad guys and generals and everything like that. So I think that would be pretty fun. Now,
Nate, you're pretty familiar with fighting games like Injustice. Do you think a game like that could work for Star Wars?
That's like the Mortal Kombat style.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Judging by how it is, it's a lot of fun. They've tried it before. It didn't work.
Oh, they have?
Masters of Terrascasi.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Well,
though.
yes, it was a long time ago, and they have made a lot of mistakes with games. Like
Bombad Racing.
Which we didn't even know was a real game till our Tuesday Night Live.
It actually has a very high Metacritic score.
Bombad?
Yes, it's in the 70s.
All right.
But would it work? Yes. How they would make a story would confuse me.
That's true.
It feels disjointed, going through and fighting these characters. I love the idea with Injustice because you're fighting other superheroes. That's great. But in this kind of a game, I don't think
it couldn't really be tied to canon story at all to do a game like that. But it would be kind of cool. And what is Galaxy of Heroes comparatively? What does that fall in?
It's a turn-based strategy game. Okay. Which you could probably do something like that on console. like a fleet game, but they have those already. So.
What about something like going back 20 years ago to the Phantom Menace time when I was into
Ability to speak does not make you
MMORPGs?
intelligent.
That's it. The Star Wars Combine.
Massive
It was this
multiplayer
online role-playing game.
Yes.
And I was playing Star Wars Combine. You create a character, you function within an environment, within a universe. Maybe, they have a series of rules that don't allow you to be connected to any of the legacy stories or the legacy characters, but it can fit within the stories themselves. And you could do an MMORPG in a big way, kind of like what I think they tried. That's not Republic, I guess, but.
Well, the Old Republic game, not Knights of the Old Republic, but the Old Republic game was an MMORPG.
Okay.
Yeah, it was that.
So there's 2 different games there?
What?
There's 3. There's the 2 Knights of the Old Republic, and then there's the Old Republic game. The Old Republic game,
It's exactly what you're explaining.
Right,
Really?
except it's you actually have a character you move around the world instead of like a text-based game.
And you decide, and if you do good acts, then your character will go more to the light side. If you do bad acts, then your character will start.
How did
to
that
lean-
game do? Was it popular?
Oh, it's hugely
It's
popular.
huge.
It's
Still?
still big. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Really?
huge. I tried to get into it for like 12 minutes, and then I was like, yeah, I hate this style of game, and just couldn't do it. So
I started to play it, and I enjoyed it, but it was on my old computer. And
that's true.
That thing, we had to stop using it once it started. When you go into a browser and you open one tab and try to open up another tab, it wouldn't load. So
it
you
just
have
didn't
to-
work?
It
Yeah.
didn't.
Okay. So
I want to go home and rethink my life.
this is like a revelation for me. So there's the Knights of the Old Republic game, which is the Revan, Bastila that whole storyline.
Right.
And you're playing a character that becomes those characters.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you become a character, you actually find out
You find out you're Revan. Yeah.
in that story. And that's actually different.
Yes.
Then there's an Old Republic game.
The Old Republic game is really you're just a character who happens
Who
to
lives
be
in the Star
that
Wars
time
storyline.
period, right? In that time period, and you can become a smuggler or a Jedi or there's a lot of different roles.
And it's still a popular game?
yeah, oh yeah, it's huge.
And you
not know
were
this.
talking about a Telltale game wouldn't work. Yes, there are different areas you can go to, but the ending is always the same, no matter
thought there were
how
different
you
endings.
play. No. You can go to different locations and different areas, and you can take different paths, but they always lead to the same ending.
That being said, though, you're gonna eventually things will be different throughout the story, so it will mess up the overall story like details.
Well, normally some games, judging by, we can go to Injustice, there are good endings and bad endings. Normally good endings are the canon ones. So you can just say that there's non-canon ones. Like some of the character endings in the Battle Simulator for Injustice 2. You can go to different characters, and there are some that just don't fit into the story, but they explain that that's a part of the multiverse that wasn't correct and not canon. So you can just make it not canon, but specific endings. Would I think they'd do that? No.
All right, Deborah Chow is promising a coherent voice.
Hello there.
In the upcoming Kenobi series. This is from Heroic Hollywood. While participating in a roundtable, Deborah Chow talked about the difference between the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and The Mandalorian.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Chow said it's definitely going to be different just in terms of sheer workload, obviously, of doing the whole thing. But in some ways, I'm going to miss having a team and having people who are there to bounce ideas off of. But then obviously the flip side is it's nice to have a coherent voice and you know what you're doing from beginning to end. Contrary to what the Star Wars rumor mill is saying, filming on Kenobi is still expected to begin in 2021.
I have spoken.
So Samuel, how do you feel about Kenobi differing from The Mandalorian due to it having a single director?
I think it'll have a better feeling overall theme. If you watch The Mandalorian, it does have an overall story and an overall theme, but you can clearly tell each episode has a different flavor, for lack of a better term. Some episodes are really deep and heavy, and heartfelt, and then other episodes are really light and funny, like the Jawa episode. It's pretty light and fun to watch, minus maybe the Mudhorn scene. But it's an easy episode to watch, and then you get into like the end of the series, and it's really heavy. Or you even get into the village episode. That's also a pretty heavy episode too. So they're very different themes.
The style of the director is coloring the episode,
right? So it can get a little jarring sometimes going from episode to episode. Okay. Having this all one feel will make the Kenobi series, I think it'll make it more impactful.
Yeah. I just really am excited to see just one director putting their vision out for this character. That's going to be fun. And I'm sure that she's not saying that having multiple directors on The Mandalorian isn't a good idea.
No, she said she liked being able to talk to the
Yeah.
other directors and have something to bounce it off of. But.
Yes, but I think it's going to be fun for her to be able to tell the story that she's wanting to tell about this character, and I think she's very excited for it. I would be, definitely, and I would love, of course, to work on The Mandalorian. Who wouldn't? But
right,
to have your own vision going out into this character would be fun.
And one of the things that we have mentioned before is that The Last Jedi feels kind of disjointed from The Rise of Skywalker and The Force Awakens because they were different directors. We think that JJ had his own vision for the characters, and he stuck with those in The Force Awakens and in The Rise of Skywalker. And Ryan had his own vision for the characters, and that's what he did in The Last Jedi. So it felt very disjointed. I mean, this is greatly magnified compared to The Mandalorian. I think The Mandalorian was still pretty level.
The characters of the stories, they were all working together with story group, with Dave, with John on it.
But you can see how having different people try to tell their story can make things a little hectic.
All right, so BB Nate, what are some stories that you're hoping to see told in the Kenobi series?
I like this guy.
Definitely the one from a certain point of view. Maybe just hint at it. That'd be kind of cool. I always love the idea.
Explain what that one is.
Well, I mean, when I read it, it was the only from a certain point of view story I read. I only read it because we were going to Celebration, and I knew we were going to be interviewing Captain Scott. So
tell us what the story is. I'm forgetting.
I understand, but it's just kind of his day-to-day life, what he experiences, and he is just like Rey. He marks off the days that he's been there on his wall. He just scratches them out, and I've always loved that idea of how the parallels between them, and it's just, I'd like to see the day-to-day
Was that the
life.
one where Qui-Gon interacts with him at all?
Yes, he interacts with him a little bit, but I'd like to see the day-to-day life of him, but of course make it a little bit more exciting, because having an episode of him going to the market and then coming back preparing some food and then that's the credits would not be that interesting. But
that's pretty cool. What do you think, Sam? What would be one you'd want to see?
I really want to see the interaction between him and Owen. Because,
crap! You stole mine.
If it's then great minds
go
think
ahead.
alike.
That's right.
The interaction, because we know that Owen doesn't really like Obi-Wan. He doesn't like him being there. He thinks it's just causing more trouble than would be normally. But I really want to see that, and like maybe Luke, and like what interactions he has with a young Luke, if they even bring in a young Luke, because then you have to deal with casting issues. But I do really want to see that interaction between Owen and Ben.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, that was one of them that I was thinking of. I would love to see two other ideas, and I know they've covered this to some extent in some comics, but it'd be fun to see this in live action, is to see whatever it happened that causes the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders, to be so terrified of Obi-Wan Kenobi when he shows up on the scene in A New Hope. I want to see him, stopping Tusken Raiders from attacking the Lars homestead or something. Just anything like that would be awesome. And then I want to see him interacting in Mos Eisley and with sort of the underbelly of that. What is it that causes him to sit there with Luke and R2 and C-3PO overlooking Mos Eisley and say, "You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy." Yeah. I want to see what it is that he's experienced to tell that story for him to say that.
I'm just curious, how are you going to make Tatooine exciting?
Please.
To hold a series on? I know it's Kenobi, and that's going to be awesome to hear his story after 3, but how do you make Tatooine exciting? We understand with The Mandalorian, he had a whole episode on there, and that made sense because he was looking for a job, and there was somebody on there.
But it was a boring, it was like it had some, it was slow at times.
It was slow. How do you carry a whole series on that? Yeah. I mean, there can't be large galactic problems on Tatooine.
No, I think you have Hutt problems on Tatooine. You have bounty hunter problems.
And what is Kenobi going to do about that?
Who knows? Maybe we're going to... it's a whole planet. I mean, think about it in Phantom Menace. It's a bustling planet with lots of stuff happening.
Or at least the spaceports are.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got to be... Maybe he's interacting in the spaceports. Who knows if he's got some kind of interaction with Bail Organa, because Bail knows he's there. Maybe some Ahsoka stuff. I know that we feel like Ahsoka is like, like we've joked around the Forrest Gump of Star Wars right now. She's showing up everywhere. But, let's see what his life is like. I want to see him learning about the Force. I would love to see him moving out of the physical plane and into the Force in some really crazy Mortis level Force stuff going on, where he's learning about how to become one with the Force. He's interacting with Qui-Gon Jinn. He's communicating with Yoda through the Force. All of these types of things. I would love to see some crazy Force stuff.
I think we see some like references to World Between Worlds if that happens.
Who knows? It would be pretty cool because Kanan and Ezra, they're interacting with Obi-Wan, they're interacting with Yoda in Rebels, and Yoda's alive. But that's like a lot further down in the timeline. What's gotten to that point? Is Yoda interacting with him? I think we could have a lot of fun with it. So, all right. So the Prime Jedi,
I got a bad feeling about this.
A light sider. This is according to ScreenRant.com. Star Wars has suddenly confirmed the first Jedi were agents of balance. In The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker had hidden himself away on the remote ocean world of Ahch-To, site of the first Jedi temple. There, viewers caught a brief glimpse of a mural representing the Prime Jedi, the first Jedi Master, founder of the Order. The mural seemed to present a very different philosophy of the Force to the one seen in the Skywalker saga. Light and dark were given equal prominence in this depiction. The recently published Star Wars tie-in Secrets of the Jedi appears to support that view. This is an in-universe fact book supposedly written by Jedi Master Skywalker himself, and it contains notes running all the way up to his death. Naturally, there's an early section dedicated to the discussion of the Force, with Luke discussing the idea of Force alignment. In it, he says, those of us inherently inclined to harness the Force's vast energies must make a difficult choice to use its powers either for the greater good or for personal gain. Luke moves on then to discussing the idea of balance, suggesting that there is a valuable lesson to be found in this. Significantly, he attaches an image of the Prime Jedi mural as part of the section on balance. BB Nate, how would it alter our view of the Jedi and the Sith to discover that the original Jedi were more focused on balance rather than light and dark?
Well, what's really cool for me is the lightsaber color that you can best describe the balance would have to be yellow.
Okay.
Because if you look at them, they're called Jedi Sentinels, is the kind of a different order that branches off the Jedi Order. They practice the Jedi ways, but they also use real world techniques to balance out what they're going to be doing in the real world. And they figure out and they learn more about each side. They figure out the balance in everybody. And so I think that if it was more balance, being able to defeat your enemy, you must know your enemy. So I think that if they decided that it was just in the middle, not we're all the way good, there can't just all be the way.
Like the Bendu?
Yes, like the Bendu. And he's a very wise person, and he trains Kanan into being this great master. So I think that I think it would be awesome to see more balanced Jedi in the way that we see him in.
Yeah, I think that originally the Jedi thought that the dark side and the light side weren't good and evil. They were just two sides to the same coin, that is
life,
the Force.
Death.
Right, like
dark,
that whole
light,
scene in The Last Jedi. I think that they had people who were perhaps more devoted to one side than the other, but I think that they made sure that they were the same amount or something, because you got to have this balance. You can't have one without the other. If you have just life and no death, then
life means nothing.
Right, that. And there's overgrowth, and there's just too much of things, and you don't get to appreciate life. If there's just death, then there's no life, and there's nothing to grow. So you have to have both sides of it, otherwise it's just not going to work out. So I think that they were more focused on maintaining a balance.
Do you think that means that there has to be an equal number on both sides, or is it a balance within us, an acceptance of light and dark, life and death, that there is good and evil, and that we have to become sort of centered within that and not let it either side control us with that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the mural isn't depicting two people, but just one who's
well, that's what it
centered
suggests here, is that it's the Prime Jedi.
Oh, I thought it meant, well, Jedi meant two.
No,
it can be plural.
A single one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, no, I could see that then too. I could see it just being an internal balance.
All right. So Samuel the Hutt, there's a moment in Jedi Fallen Order where we may have actually learned from those who were the original Jedi. Explain what this theory is.
Yeah. So the theory is that the Zepho you learn about in Fallen Order were actually originally the first Jedi, the Prime Jedi. There's like this scene where you get a vision, and the Zepho say that at one point they were this unbelievably advanced civilization with amazing technology and were really strong in the Force, and eventually their own arrogance and hubris eventually led to their downfall, and now they're non-existent. And the theory goes that those were the original Jedi, and the Jedi Order later that we see in like the prequels kind of mirrors that. I see where they're going with that, and I think it makes sense, but if you look at the mural of the Prime Jedi, we know the mural is a Prime Jedi. We don't know that the Zeph are a Prime Jedi. It doesn't look close in any way. In the theory, they said that maybe the Prime Jedi you see in the mural was a female, and the ones you see in the visions were the males. But if you go around the whole Zepho thing, there are statues, there are sentinels, there are so many things that depict the Zepho with those kind of triangular heads, and the one in the mural is a round head, and I just don't think it makes sense that they could be that same character. Do I think that the mirror of them and the Jedi Order is there? Yes, I think that that's probably something they put in there to kind of like warn Cal about what the Jedi Order has done and how it's happened more than once at this point.
Right.
So I think that's what it's in there for. I don't think they were necessarily the Prime Jedi.
What do you think, BB Nate?
Yeah, I think they're just it feels like they're just a civilization that was very interested in the ways of the Force. Because you said, I mean, one of the first places you go on Zepho after you go to the whole vaults and everything, at least this is where I've always gone the 2-ish times I've played it. I go and I see this mural of the Zepho, and it was like they're very interested in the planet Dathomir, and they're very interested in the ways that the Force was around there. So it feels like that they're just a civilization that was very tuned into the Force, very Force sensitive and very Force interested. So do I think that they're the Prime Jedi or anything like that? No. Do I think they're a civilization that was really interested in the Force? Yes.
Call up a Hammerhead Corvette. I have an idea.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
All right, so we did a flash poll. We're going to talk about it because it's a really fun conversation.
How fast was Flash?
Flash was 2.5 hours, and Michael Condon actually is like, I'm going to steal this when this is over. This is an unbelievable topic. So, and he's going to talk about it on the Back to Tank sometime.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Maybe he'll have us on to do it.
That'd be kind of fun.
That would be.
Or maybe he can have the Two Sons of Tatooine podcast.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
No, I'm not going to address that. So, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So, guys, if you're watching this, thank you. All right. This week's flash poll: whose death had the greatest impact on Anakin Skywalker? Qui-Gon Jinn, Shmi Skywalker, or Padme Amidala? What did you guys think about the percentages on the answer? Is it pretty much what you would have expected?
No.
I honestly thought the third choice was going to be higher.
Padme?
Yeah,
I thought the first one was going to be higher.
Really? Qui-Gon?
Yeah, so you guys both, okay, that's going to be interesting.
We're going to explain that in a little bit.
We'll have a little conversation about this in a minute. 22% said Padme Amidala. So Sam, you would have predicted third place.
Yeah.
That's awesome. 24.4% said Qui-Gon Jinn, and runaway winner, Shmi Skywalker.
Skywalker.
It was like Shmi Skywalker, she's like really cool about this stuff.
Do you have to squint your face when
you got to talk like this, and you got to make the face when you do it, or it don't work. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
You know what I'm saying? All right. Okay. It's been a while since I've done one of those on this show.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what you guys had to say about that. Who's got Cam? Do I have
you?
Cam? I have
you
Cam.
Cam.
All right. Hey, Cam.
Yeah.
How's it going, man? All right.
We're so prepared.
Thanks for giving us that review last week, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it says, I think Shmi's death had the largest impact that Anakin was aware of. But I believe Qui-Gon's deaths created the biggest impact in regards to Anakin's being set up for an easier turn to the dark side. Qui-Gon is the master Anakin needed.
Interesting take on
little
that.
nuance with that, little subtlety.
So this is talking Star Wars,
which is honestly, it's if you want to know the truth, it's sort of like the Two Sons of Tatooine, because one of the podcasts in the Star Wars Commonwealth that's been around forever when we were in the Commonwealth was Talk Star Wars.
Yeah.
So this was Talking Star Wars. So it's kind of ironic.
At Pink Milk House.
That's a house. Yeah, it's like a European version of
I think
spelling.
it's German.
Yeah.
Actually, I answered Padme, but I think I agree with the bulk here. Shmi may have had the biggest impact on Anakin. Padme's death may have impacted Vader more.
Maybe. All right, way to take a stand. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing with you. Okay?
It's me.
It's the way BB Nate answers questions, so it's good that he read it. So.
Right. This next one's from Ben Wellington at Ben Wellington. They commented business-wise, Qui-Gon. Heart-wise, Shmi. Self-hate-wise, Padme.
Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah,
it's a good point. I mean, I like how each death had an impact.
Another
on him
great
in a
way to answer the question
without really answering the question.
So let's talk about the question.
Yeah.
For ourselves. So, whose death impacted Anakin more? What do you guys think?
Well, while I said what I thought would be higher in the poll was Padme, I really do think Shmi was higher. I think this is the point where he starts to lose faith in the Order. He loved his mother. I mean, he was worried about her throughout. His training when he left, when he came, he's like, I'm going to come back to save you. I promise, Mom. And her death, it is what sets him down the path of the dark side. I think that's why her death is the most impact. While Padme is important, don't get me wrong, I think Shmi was really the catalyst for it.
Interesting. What do you think, BB Nate?
I'd have to say Qui-Gon, and I still agree with this wholeheartedly, because so
you are taking a stand.
I am taking a stand, finally. But why I think this is because how Qui-Gon learned. He learned from a master that eventually went to the dark side, but a master that, if you look at him, he was a very balanced kind of a Jedi. He never wanted...
So Qui-Gon was balanced, or...
Well, he learned from a balanced master.
Okay.
So he, of course, takes up some of those traits. And so... Anakin would have had that better, a person that fully believes in the Jedi Order, but can understand some of the dark side stuff. He can understand that the Jedi Order is not always right.
And you have to remember, Qui-Gon knew about Sifo Dyas's visions and things, so he probably would have been more understanding of Anakin's visions of his mother and of Padme and things like that.
And I mean... Obi-Wan is reluctant to take Anakin on. He doesn't want to have a Padawan yet. And that's really a thing we learn from Dooku Jedi Lost, that when a master is ready, he will take a Padawan on, not have a Padawan forced on him. Especially his first Padawan being somebody that is over the age of being able to be a Padawan. He hasn't learned anything.
So you've barely become a Jedi master yourself. Like, he goes from Padawan to master overnight.
Yeah.
His trial, you guys realize that they claim that his Jedi trial was the confrontation with Maul.
Yeah.
That's in canon, right?
Right.
So his Jedi trial is that, okay, here you go. You're now a Jedi master. Oh, and by the way, you just lost your master, and you're still grieving that. Oh, and by the way, you're going to take a Padawan. Oh, and by the way, he's 9 years old. Oh, and by the way, he's the chosen one. Congratulations, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
And it's something that he wasn't ready for. Kenobi himself is a great character and a very wise Jedi in that sense. But do I think that he was ready to take on Anakin? No. Do I think Qui-Gon would have been a better master for him? Yes. And so that's why I think that's the turning point. If you can go to a what if series, like what they're doing with Marvel, but with Star Wars, that'd be a story I would love to see, the change if Qui-Gon didn't die.
That's pretty awesome. I will make the argument for Padme Amidala, and only because it's her death that seals his fate going
Final
forward.
nail in the coffin.
It's not just her death, it's the vision of her death. It's the idea that she could be dying. It's that attachment to her and the possibility of losing her after losing Qui-Gon. I think all of these things build for him.
Absolutely.
He's lost Qui-Gon, and now he's lost his mother.
Yeah.
And he has this connection now with Padme. He's in love with her. They love each other. All this, they're married. And now he's fearing that he's going to lose her.
And possibly the children.
The children, exactly. And all of that sort of, it's what triggers him to do whatever it would take to save her. So it's not even her death itself that sets him over the edge. It's just even the fear of her death. And that, of course, that goes to fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And then it's that moment. And I think that Charles Soule's Dark Lord of the Sith comic really seals this better than even the Revenge of the Sith movie at the end, when Anakin or Vader, Darth Vader, is in that Frankenstein moment, and he creeps up and he finds out Padme truly is dead. We know that Palpatine is doing this intentionally. You killed her. He's doing all of that to help seal his connection to the dark side, to bond him in such a way to hate. And to regret and to guilt and all of these negative, dark emotions, that's what sets him as Vader.
Yeah, and you're talking about how Palpatine just was it's totally sealing Anakin's fate. I mean, we look at somebody pointed out something really cool in the Clone Wars series.
Okay.
They were watching the episode where Tup starts to just his chip malfunctions, and he goes to...
Was it Tup or was it Fives?
It was the one with the tear, so I think that's Tup.
That's Tup, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he goes and he attacks the Jedi, that episode. But he's standing there, and they're wondering if he's okay. He's sitting on a bench, and Anakin's right there, and then there's...
Tup was the first one, and then Fives happens the same malfunction, I think, in the same episode.
Okay,
Yeah. So Tup is there, and Anakin's there, and then this other Jedi walks in, and the clone sees her, and then he attacks the other Jedi, and he's like, why didn't he attack Anakin? And somebody's like, so are we saying that Anakin was already programmed into the clones to not be attacked?
That's really cool.
Because he's
actually a really interesting thought.
Never thought about that. I don't know if it has anything to do with this topic.
Well, you're talking about Palpatine.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Just putting it in.
He had groomed Anakin for this role for so long that he had this programmed into the clones.
But the clones were put into production before Phantom Menace.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
Weren't they?
Yeah, they were, because of Sifo Dyas and
don't
stuff.
you think that Palpatine was working through that the whole time?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I know he was working through it, but does that mean he's anticipating Anakin before?
Or he was anticipating the Chosen One and turning the Chosen One.
So this goes all the way back to the last episode, the last issue of Charles Soule's comic, when Palpatine is in that moment working around, or present, even when Anakin is being born. Not necessarily, again, Matt Martin has made it 100% clear. It is a story group position that comic does not indicate Palpatine was the father of Anakin Skywalker, okay? So we're not saying that. But it does indicate that he was there. He was around. He was present.
Something happened.
He knew
there.
what was going on with it. So that's really interesting. The first 6 Star Wars films are about the fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker. And in this final episode of our light side lessons from the Star Wars series, we see how the good within Anakin was manipulated and actually eventually led him to become the Dark Lord of the Sith.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Initial thoughts. Who's going to go first?
Who talks first? You talk first.
Who talks first?
I'll go first. I think Anakin is he's what the perfect Jedi should be if he hadn't been manipulated so much by Sidious and everything.
Took mine.
Right.
All right, so make their argument and then you can continue.
Yeah, I think that he was loving and to everyone and everything, and the whole order saying no, you can't love everyone, messed him up, and then Palpatine taking that love and twisting it for a dark purpose is what really led him to the dark. What really messed up his story was his pure love for everyone.
Interesting. Sam or BB Nate, make the argument.
So, I mean, we look at Anakin. If you look at how he is as a Jedi, you can see he is an amazing Jedi.
You underestimate my power.
And if he didn't turn to the dark side, if Qui-Gon didn't die, if Shmi didn't die, he was able to save her. If he didn't have those visions about Padme, even if he did and Qui-Gon was able to help him. I mean, if you look at it, he very well could have been the Chosen One. He could have brought balance to the Force. I mean, we look at the first episode of Siege of Mandalore, and he wins 2 battles in the same day, and of course he's cocky about it, but he just is the perfect version of a Jedi. But he was, of course, all of the bad events that just kind of led him down the wrong path.
Yeah, I remember, and I've talked about it on this show, previously, where reading the Revenge of the Sith novelization and just being overwhelmed by how the Jedi Order failed Anakin. And in that novel, it says they failed him because they did not allow him to love. And that Yoda makes the claim that love was the solution to Anakin and control and guiding the chosen.
Now, that novel's not necessarily canon, though, is it?
No, but I still think that idea is found throughout Clone Wars, found throughout the stories all beyond
Absolutely.
that.
You look at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and Yoda says that we were wrong. We were always wrong. So that I'm assuming that you can assume that it was about
and that's the scene where it goes into greater detail in that. So all right, so let's talk a little bit about what is it about Anakin that we can really learn kind of two lessons from. One, what is good about him and how that good can be turned to darkness.
Yeah, I mean, we see throughout the series is that he is unbelievably loyal. And there's really three, there's many, but three really main people who he's extremely loyal to that affected him the most. The first one is Shmi Skywalker, his mother. She's taken from, he's taken from her without any warning. They're separated when he's still young, and
he's all she's all he's known.
Right. So he has this connection to her, and then he's ripped away from her, and he keeps saying, "Mom, I'll come back. I will come back to free you when I'm strong enough to." And then eventually he starts having these nightmares of her death and stuff, and he's like, "I have to fix this." All he thinks about is saving his mother. This loyalty to his mother, and he gets there, and it wasn't in time. He fails her, and this is where he starts going down the dark side. And this brings up a question though. Why didn't Qui-Gon try to save her? Why didn't he try harder to? He got Anakin. Why couldn't he have done something more to save her, or talk to the council to save her? Why wouldn't he have done that? And I imagine Anakin was asking the same question. Why didn't Obi-Wan help?
Or if Qui-Gon would have survived, would he have helped me?
Right. And would his story be different? And her death is really what sets him down this path to the dark side. This is where he does his first act under the dark side, just slaughtering that whole village. I know there's the meme, but genuinely, it was a dark moment for him.
Yeah.
And so that's what while it may not be the most influential for him, it is what really sets him down this one path, because his loyalty was crushed.
Yep. And how did they expect him to break ties with her?
Right. That's why Yoda was so hesitant to train him, was he's too old to begin the training. He's already built up this strong bond with his mother.
Yeah. And so the next one is loyalty to Padme Amidala. And so the first thing we can see is the visions or the nightmares of her death. And we can really see Yoda, while he is an amazing Jedi, doesn't learn from his past mistakes. We've learned this from Jedi Lost. There are visions, this person seeing this planet being destroyed. Yoda reluctantly let this person go to this planet and doesn't think that they'll do anything will happen, and then this planet starts happening exactly as the vision says. So when Anakin comes to Yoda and is like, I'm seeing these visions of my Padme dying, and
he doesn't even say what they are.
But Yoda's like, uncertain this future is, and he just doesn't believe it. And so Anakin is frustrated because there are so many problems in the Jedi Order with Yoda alone. I mean, you look at Yoda as this high and mighty Jedi that is really wise, but we only see the wise Yoda in the original trilogy. He's not really that wise in the prequels, because he just doesn't learn from his past mistakes. But then you go to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and that's where you get all the famous quotes from Yoda. So, and the hypocrisy with Yoda and the Jedi Council. None of the masters, you can be called a master, and you can be on the Jedi Council, but you can't take on any Padawans unless you're Grandmaster, because that makes sense. And when you're totally tied up with everything on the Council, then you're not able to train a Jedi well enough. And so, with the nightmares of Padme's death, and we gotta think, were these manipulated by Sidious himself? And were And was Yoda not able to see or feel that? And do I think that it was Sidious manipulating him? It could very well be possible with what happened to Kylo Ren and how he was changed. It was the voices from Sidious put into Kylo Ren, and was Sidious just beaten down so much that he wasn't able to give him visions? Maybe just voices might what his power was able to be. So he might have given visions to Anakin because that's how powerful he was. Now, he's already lost his mother. Can he handle losing Padme as well? And so that's what really sets him off the edge. Losing his wife, losing his kids is what he thought.
His child.
His child.
He doesn't know there's twins.
Well, yes.
Right.
And so it's just very hard for him to take in. He's seeing his wife die in childbirth. That is the worst imaginable thing that can happen to him. The child is almost being able to be born, but then we don't know if they're going to stay alive.
Yeah, and I mean, and was the attachment, and everything that was going on, were these visions creating a self-fulfilling prophecy? So is Anakin seeing these visions, but like you're saying, potentially manipulated by Sidious himself in order for him to set in motions the very things that happen? Because that's what goes on.
Yeah.
In the end, she dies in childbirth because of what he does on Mustafar. And if he doesn't have these visions, does he even go down the path that he's gone down?
And I mean, if Yoda helped him, would he have even gone down that path either?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the most telling, loyalty that he has is his loyalty to Palpatine, to Chancellor Palpatine. You go back to the end of Phantom Menace. We will be we'll be watching your career with great interest, right? He takes him in, he mentors him. We see that. We learn that a whole lot more in the Siege of Mandalore arc on the Clone Wars, because Ahsoka talks a lot about that with Maul, about how he's being mentored by, and Maul knows it too. Anakin is being mentored by Palpatine through this. And so there's this connection, there's this bond between the two of them. Anakin doesn't trust the Jedi Council at this point.
He almost has no loyalty to them in any way.
No, and part of that has to do with what happens with Ahsoka, right? Because he does trust Ahsoka, or trust the Jedi Council in how they're going to handle things with Ahsoka, and they completely bomb in that.
Right, but you got to also think about Shmi and Padme too. I mean, I'm sure he blames the Council for what happened to them too.
Well, at least to Shmi. If they would have let him go, he could have saved her. But yeah, it's just this whole thing keeps getting out of control, and now he's being asked to spy. On that moment in Revenge of the Sith is the critical moment.
Right.
Is where. And we see that happening they talk about it in the Clone Wars episodes, and it's really detailed. I know I talk about the book all the time, but it's really detailed in the Revenge of the Sith novelization with it, where that's like, it breaks Anakin's heart. And what breaks his heart the most is he's got this loyalty to Kenobi, but now he doesn't feel that Kenobi's loyal to him. Because this has happened. Kenobi is asking him to go against this mentor of his. And at that point, you see Anakin doesn't trust Kenobi anymore. And we see that happen at Mustafar, right? You brought him. He doesn't trust Padme anymore. He doesn't trust Kenobi anymore. Everything, his world is shattered over this entire scenario. And then Palpatine claims they have the power to save Padme.
Yeah.
And so now I can't trust Palpatine. Or is he telling me the truth? If I want to save Padme, I have to go to the dark side because he's this Darth Sidious character. All of this is just completely thrown out. And then the ultimate moment, right? The critical moment when he needed the Jedi to be the Jedi. The critical moment when he needed Mace Windu to be the strong Jedi Council member that was going to do the right thing, follow the code. Jedi Master Windu throws the code out the window before he gets thrown out the window with it. He's like, we have to kill the Palpatine. That's not the Jedi way. He needs Mace Windu to be a Jedi, and he isn't. So now he has no trust at all in the Jedi Council. There's no more loyalty to the Jedi Council at all, to the ways of the Jedi, any of that. The only person he knows that he can be loyal to is the one that's never lied to him.
Yeah.
Darth Sidious.
Not once.
And so he surrenders to that. It makes that moment where he's suddenly, all right, suddenly I'm bowing before Darth Sidious. If he's told me he can save Padme, I'm going to trust that he'll save Padme. with it. It's this whole thing. It's his love, his loyalty, that causes him to actually flip and become this unbelievable Dark Lord and surrender and become this Darth Vader. Yeah. It's really powerful. For the dad moment this week, good can become evil. And I'm not just talking about Anakin Skywalker here. Anakin's loyalty to his mother, to Padme, even to Chancellor Palpatine was admirable, but unbalanced. It overwhelmed the goodness within Anakin, and it became an obsession within him. And then that obsession was then manipulated by Darth Sidious and used against him. Then you throw in there the Jedi Council's dismissal of it, and it makes things infinitely worse. It opened the door in Anakin's soul to the darkness that eventually became Darth Vader, and there might just be something to this whole balance thing. Next week, we start a new series.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Dark Side Lessons.
Yeah.
So if we're going to talk about Dark Side Lessons, why don't we flip the script, talk about Darth Vader?
There we go.
All right, awesome. All right, anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, so the first chapter of the High Republic novel came out. It's the Light of the Jedi novel. It was it got me hooked.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that.
I'm really excited to read it. I'm not going to spoil it, but you should find it online and read it. It's a good 10-15 minute read. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, so this is big news for us.
Big news.
I'm really excited. For July 10th, can't come any sooner. But at Regal, Empire Strikes Back is coming back to theaters.
Yeah. So here we go. 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, and the three of us are going to actually go see the I Am Your Father moment in theaters. You can't get more Star Warsy than that. So, and then the last one, Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer is out. Why haven't you downloaded this yet and let me play it?
I don't know.
It's expensive.
How much is it?
20.
That's not expensive.
It's more than we got to spend.
Yeah, right.
We got to save up for Squadrons.
Yeah, that's true. You guys just need to order that too. So
yeah, that's important. So, we need y'all to do something. We need y'all to give us a rating and review. That'd be perfect. If you could go on iTunes or Google Podcasts, that'd be fantastic. If you went and gave us a review, it'd be great because we think it might give us higher engagement. We aren't 100%.
Or higher on the algorithm.
Yeah, it's higher on the algorithm, higher on the iTunes store if you use iTunes for your podcast.
Nobody really knows how that works.
No one. I mean, unless the people that actually make the algorithm.
But it's fun to see it. Yes, it makes us feel better.
And when people go to see it and they see your review, it might help them listen to our podcast. So just give us a rating and review on iTunes, on Google Podcasts, and you can even do it on Facebook on our page at Tatooine Sons.
Yeah. And speaking of Facebook and our page, go ahead and like our page on Facebook if you haven't already. That way you're followed and you're always notified when we go live, or when we post episodes, when we post anything. Really helps us out. And then join our discussion group. We have a Tatooine Sons discussion group. This is where you guys can interact with us really easily. We're posting stuff all the time. People are posting stuff. It's just a lot of fun, positive Star Wars content and conversation. And then don't forget, we're on Twitter and Instagram as well at Tatooine Sons. We're real active on Twitter. We're always active on Twitter. Instagram, we're getting up there. We're trying to build it up. So if you like us and follow us on that, that'll help build our engagement.
Comments
with that too.
are what we need there.
Yeah,
we
comments on
comments.
Anything. Facebook shows, Instagram, Twitter, anything. Comments are what really drives engagement. So comment and follow us on all those
as long
pages.
as it's positive, please.
Yeah, I ban and delete the other comments on there. And then make sure you're checking out our weekly show. Of course, we come out every Monday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We do that both on audio and on Facebook.
Yeah.
Lots of Facebook videos going out, pretty much one a day, where stuff that's not on our main show is actually getting put out on Facebook for you guys to watch and check out and have other conversations. Of course, if you're listening to the podcast on audio, you're getting the whole ball of wax in one, but you may want to engage with us on the video as well. So that's going to do it. Can you believe we finished our first season?
Whoa. It's kind of bittersweet, but like, yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Up?
No, I was yawning.
He looked like he was crying.
It's so emotional.
That's awesome. I'm going to cut that though and make it look like you did. So
okay.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty much do it for this episode. So anything else you guys want to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me. Join
please. Yep.